Hello, welcome back to another event from Keep Indiana Learning. We are Keep Indiana Learning digital learning coaches, and today's session is part of a Survivor series for educators. Today's topic is post spring break behavior. On that note, my name is Melissa Wally, and I'm the EdTech Specialist and Technology Coach from Hanover Community School Corporation. I'm also a digital learning coach for Keep Indiana Learning. As I said, I've been in education for almost 25 years now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Stevens. I am also a digital learning coach with Keep Indiana Learning, as well as a K-5 Project Lead the Way launch teacher for South Henry School Corporation at Tri Elementary. I'm so happy to be here.
And hey, my name is Julia Crone. I'm a teacher at Plainfield Community Schools. I'm our tech integration specialist, and I am more than pumped to talk about post-spring break discipline. Actually, some of the different clubs are getting out right now at my school, so it's going to be a little loud behind me. But that's also something that's really cool to be a part of when it comes to middle school. So I am going to have a lot to say about spring break and student discipline and surviving it.
I love it. I love it. So just for a quick moment, like this topic, right? When we were thinking about our next Survivor Series topic, we were like, what makes sense for March? And then we were all, it was like unanimous. All three of us were like spring break when we get back. So quick question. Do you guys do 1 week, 2 weeks for spring break?
We do one. We do
Okay.
1 week, and ours is late. We don't have ours this year until April, first week of April.
Okay. We're 2 weeks, and it's last week of March, first week of April. Julia?
We are 1 week, and I'm about a week away from it. So typically, actually, I worked at Warren Central for a while, and this past week, 2 weeks before spring break was actually called Fight Week, where we would expect that was the week where we'd have just this influx, more fights than we've had all school year. And so it gets a little crazy. I think teachers have been a little checked out. February can be hard. I know myself, when I was in the classroom, I was always really good at the start of the year, and I'd be like, hey, let's make better choices. And then by like spring break, I'm like, I know back there, I know you're not making that choice right now. Don't make me get up from my chair. So it kind of gets hard for everybody. I'm not going to pretend like my mind's not already in Disney, where I'm going to be a week from now. So I'm packed in my head, but actually none of that has taken place yet. So gonna get there.
I love this because let's also talk about what else is on the calendar. I seem to remember a full moon. I seem to remember that we have some iRead testing going on in third grade, maybe even in our second grade rooms. How about the fact that we've lost an hour and daylight savings came in? And there's anticipation of iLearn. There's St. Patrick's Day, which means I had the beautiful job of welcoming children to school along with all of their leprechaun traps. And so it's just, there's so much excitement. And then there's like this roller coaster of emotions coming from teachers and students and families. And, this has been an incredible school year. It's been one where we've had the amazing, I feel like most of us have had this amazing opportunity to be present, not feel like, there's going to be some unexpected, quarantines or, things that might keep us away from school and our normal routines, right? But with that said, we might be feeling a little tired, and we might be feeling, again, that roller coaster of emotion. So, when I think about spring break and I think about being gone for 2 whole weeks, that's a long time. Whenever anybody asks me about having a 2-week break, I'm like, it's wonderful, but it's long enough to get into a new routine. And so with that said, my first tip for coming back from spring break, and even, I'll be honest, I'm doing this right now, prepping before spring break, is to go back to routines. I am referencing my champs wall. I'm referencing all those policies and procedures that we made together and, the beginning of the year that we readdressed in January. And now here we are, right? Because again, like you said, Julia, like I found that students are coming in and maybe there might be some things, some behaviors that I was like, okay, everybody, let's, inhale and exhale. And now I'm like, why is everybody talking? Like, no, thank you. So that back to routines is huge. And then be in touch with families about the routines and the policies and the procedures that you're, enforcing and just really lifting up in your classroom, because families will want to help you by, if you know better, you do better. So if they know, like, we're having a conversation at the dinner table and I've just heard you interrupt me more than once. I know that's not allowed at school. That's not allowed here. In situations like that. But your classroom environment, it's your space. And I bet that teachers and students are just really looking forward to that time off, but then coming back and resetting so you can ride that home stretch.
That is so right. When you said leprechaun trap, I think that says it all, like the leprechaun trap of it all. And it's this week, and here we go. But so my first tip that came to mind is be present. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. That end of year madness that happens. And I don't know about your schools. It sounds like it's the same, because in my district, we have so many events at the end of the year. And I think we can just get so busy with the last part of the school year that we're hopping from one week to the next. And then suddenly it's like the year's over and we didn't even get to enjoy it. So I love looking forward to summer just as much as anyone, but I always feel like we hit that 100th day of school and then it just flies by after that, because just like what Amy said, we have testing and we have this and we have this and then a spring break and then it's over. And all those activities and that disruption of routine can be stressful to students. And that brings out those behaviors like what Amy mentioned. So I think that we have to remember that amidst that final field trip and field day and talent show or musical practices, that we're slowing down our pace and being present with our students, because this time of year, not only do we have school that's so busy, but students are then leaving school at the end of the day and they might have spring sports. So then we also have the weather's getting warmer and then they're starting to play outside and maybe their bedtimes are getting extended. So add to that, we have spirit weeks and dress up days and leprechaun traps, and it's a lot. So I think the important thing is that our students are making memories and they're going to carry those memories with them for the rest of their lives. So it's so worth it. Keep the rituals you've had all year and celebrate each event as it comes, not just for your students, but for you too.
I love that. I'll tell you what, I'm a big believer in present over perfect. I think that's such an important thing. Like even last night, my son, he had his first t-ball practice and he was like absolutely adorable with it. But my oldest, I was sitting there and I was like, oh, I'm going to shoot off an email or two, because you always got to be working. And my oldest was like, Mom, will you run some bases with me? And I was like, let me just write this email real quick. And then he was like, and I was like, you know what? I marked it as unread and then I put it in my purse and I was like, let's run some bases, because Lord knows I also needed to run and get some energy off. And then I just got a message, like since we've been on here at Parent Square, from my 5-year-old's teacher. He's in pre-K and she's like, has something changed? He's had a really rough week. And I'm like, daylight savings time. Our routine is so off. So Amy, when you were talking about routines, and I was like, my own child needs routines, and any child that's in front of me needs to understand what those expectations. So I think those are great. I want to go and come and hit you with a mindset. When I wake up in the morning, if I wake up and I'm like, another day, like it's going to hit me and like, wonder what Johnny's going to do today. Those darn kids, like today, I am back in our maker space at the middle school, Plainfield Community Middle School, and the kids are prototyping this project for the Indianapolis Zoo for the red kangaroos. By the way, if I could like buy myself a pouch and have myself a kangaroo in my pouch at all times and teach, that's what I would do. I'm going to try to find a grant to get a kangaroo for the Idea Lab. Just going to get wild. But I walk into the storage room. I had like walked out for like an hour. And there was another teacher in there, but I was helping facilitate, and I had to go to a meeting, and it had been destroyed. There was like someone had gotten into the cotton. They're seventh graders, that someone had knocked down this thing of cardboard, but like I didn't have any way of figuring out like who did it, and it was probably a couple kids, and they weren't being watched. There wasn't an extra set of eyes on them because I had to go to that meeting. And so I'm not going to be upset at that teacher because they're also facilitating, they're having conversations. They can't be everywhere at once. And I go, is this something I can control? Like, how can I control this? And I'm like, I'm going to pick it up. And then my next step of controlling is that next day to that particular class, I'm going to make sure that they know these are the expectations. So I'm going to go back over that routine. But my mindset, like, I immediately was like, these kids, like those meddling kids, but then I had to like take it back because that doesn't affect anybody but myself, because what am I going to do? Hunt down who did it? Like, you have to be able, the only person at that point I was affecting was myself if I got upset. So I cleaned up. I had a couple students who just volunteered to help me, and we cleaned it up and it was fine. And I talked to those kids the whole time, and it was an awesome experience to get to be with them. But it's just when you wake up in the morning, frame your mind. Not these darn kids. It's also not like, I don't know how much you've ever studied about the brain of students, but like our brain is like fully lit up because we're adults, but like your brain doesn't get fully lit up until you're like in your mid 20s. I think it's maybe even close to 28 for men, which makes sense. I can say that because there's women on here where like, I think it's like we get fully lit up at like 24. But your students, when you think like, I've told them and I've told them and I've told them, why do they not get this? Well, it's because their brains aren't fully developed. So we have to continue showing them. We have to continue going over routines. We have to reteach them. And then we also have to stay firm with those. So keeping your mindset that, okay, like, woosah, like I told myself that today. I was like, I get to go to work. I get to do this. And I told my husband, I was like, I get to go to work today. And he's like, are you okay? Is this when we have a breakdown? I was like, no, I'm just saying that I get to go to work today. And I think it's working. Like, I think smiling and saying it, like, so just reframing your mind, because if you wake up every day and you're like, how many days? There's 7 days till spring break. These kids, if I can get away from these kids, you're going to be miserable. And it's going to be a miserable 7 days, and you're wasting your time and you're wasting your kids' time because they pick up on that. So your day is just better if you can reframe as soon as you open your eyes. And so you get to be with these kids, not that darn kid of like, wonder what's going on. I bet my kid's teacher was probably like, this darn Reed Crone. But then instead she reached out and she's like, something's going on. And then I was able to say, hey, yeah, it is sleep. And now I also know as a parent too, that I've been trying to get them to go to bed, but it just reaffirms everything that I'm doing, that we're going to continue our bedtime routine, that even though it's daylight at 7:45 when we're doing bed, I need to continue that as a parent. So even reaching out still, like I wouldn't have known that my child is actually, like, I know he's been having a little rough time at home, but I didn't know he was having a rough time at school until somebody tells me too. So mindset.
That's so good. And it's true, when you wake up in the morning, and I started doing it the night before, like, okay, let's see what I have tomorrow. Not like, let's see what I have to do tomorrow, but like, let's see what I get to do tomorrow. Let's see what it is. And just kind of framing it that way. So I agree. It's like manifesting it in your mind about what's positive. It does make a difference, little by little. And I think what you said about communication leads right into how we've spent the whole year building relationships with our students, with relationships between us and our students, but also student to student. And so now we really know our kids. We know their strengths. We know who works best with who. We know who doesn't work best with who. And so this brings a perfect recipe for collaboration. This is a good time. Our students can have time to work together on a shared activity or a more lengthy project, it makes them feel like, well, this is kind of laid back. This is kind of cool. They feel a little bit more confident, a little bit more grown up, like our teacher's letting us get away with something, but really it's collaboration. So whether this is an informal project or something deeper that actually has an end product, students working together, it just allows for communication and collaboration that are life skills that they need to have and need to constantly practice that might not happen otherwise unless it's deliberate and intentional. So it might even be a good time to partner up with another teacher or a grade level for a group project. So I like to do those things. Sometimes it's hard to fit them in, but at the end of the year, maybe this is the time if it hasn't happened.
I love that. I think that's incredibly powerful as well. And so that makes me kind of think of as well, when we're thinking about our students, engaged students are typically not our problem students. Right before spring break is not the time. I worked in a middle school where we had 50-minute settings. There were times where my students were doing work and they might be doing work for 50 minutes. I don't think that that's always appropriate right before spring break. Like, you're asking them if they are working from something for 50 minutes, like whether that's a worksheet or working on something online, they are going to find themselves into trouble. Even some of your best students, they're getting itchy. So how can you engage them? I also like to say this, like the kids all day, they are out of control of their schedule. And so if you give them a little bit of control of that, they know what's going on. Like today, we're going to do notes for 10 minutes, and then we're going to do this brain break. And then we're going to take what we learned and we're going to do something hands-on, but we have to learn it first. So then we can show our learning. So then letting them know that there is going to be some sort of reward. There is going to be something that they're going to do that's engaging, and they're not just sitting there, maybe receiving information, that they're going to get to do that information. Or even might be the time to try something new and techie. And I know that might be hard too. I know some of you guys are like, girl, iLearn is just going like this at me. It stares at night. It's like peeking through my curtains. So don't tell me to try something new, but try something that's engaging. So if you're reviewing for iLearn, reviewing your standards, play these games. There's all sorts of online free games like Flippity. We think about Blookit, we think about Kahoot and Quizlet and quizzes. There's games, and then some of them are making you start to pay, but a lot of them are still free. So find out what's working, and then work with your team if you can. If you have a team to where it's like, hey, I'm going to make a Kahoot that's on these standards. Can you focus on maybe making a Flippity where the kids have matching cards for vocabulary? So the more people who you're able to get in on that engagement piece, the better. I know when I was working with my team and like, okay, we're talking about ancient China. I'm like, oh, I have this real cool activity that's, about the Silk Road and how Chinese inventions get over there. So I worked with them, and we opened like 3 of our classrooms, and we did like a little trade route one day. And we just did it for 20 minutes, but like it was also earning that too. Like my kids knew for 2 days of like, are we ready to get our trades? Like we made it a big deal. I had a better song and dance than that. But so making it engaging, giving the students a reason of like, hey, find out tomorrow. If you come back tomorrow, you're going to find out, how we solve this problem. So engagement is extremely powerful at these times.
I love it. I love it. My wheels were turning because, by now, a lot of the content is, if not, 75%, it's probably about like 85, 90% taught. And so it's one of those things where like, we got a lot that we can work with. And that also goes with the tools that you've been using in your classroom. And so I say open the buffet of tools. Like, you guys were talking about engagement and just allowing like collaboration. We'll like open the buffet of tools. So if you've got a project or if you've got a thematic unit, say, all right, guys, by the end of this, like here's what we need to demonstrate, what content knowledge we need to demonstrate. Up until now, you've learned all of these tools on this buffet. Pick. And, or, work together and pick. So just being able to show what you know using the tool that like I've been doing this a little bit in my classroom where I had no idea that a child could sing. And I've been using GarageBand a little bit for a public service announcement project. And so flash forward, this kiddo's like, can I sing? Can I make up a song and sing? And I was like, absolutely. And it turned out to be fantastic. But I don't know that I would have ever gotten to know A, that side of that child, or B, literally hear, what their voice is. And then also to know that they understood what they were learning. So, take the tablecloth, like rip it out, like get that buffet of choice out and really let kiddos pick from all these things that you've already taught them. And then, Julia, I love what you said about possibly taking time to introduce something new because in talking about brains, there is a lot of opportunity to say, okay, what connections do you have in your brain with what you already know with this tool? How can you apply that to maybe learn and understand a brand new tool that could be a pretty awesome way of showing what you know? So yes, open the buffet.
I love that term, like open the buffet. I like that visual. To me, it makes so much sense, and it would make sense to kids too. They know what a buffet is. They think that's fancy, so they would think it was fancy to be able to choose from all of these tools and use their voice. That would be amazing to them. So I'm thinking now about that final part of the school year and how to wrap up and what we can do to really value what the experiences that students had throughout the year. So we want students to continue working on projects, but also bring closure to that school year. So I like the idea of projects because it seems worthwhile. It's an activity, and it also serves as a memory for the future. I'm big on creating memories and having those treasures. So no matter what they say, they will probably miss their classmates, and they will definitely miss their teacher. So you can have students do several different things that hopefully they'll hang on to. Like one is you could have them create word clouds. Every student could submit words to describe their classmates, and then either you or they compile it to make a word cloud about them. And then you could also have everybody make a slide about a memory, something they remember from the school year, which I like that idea because it would be so interesting to see what everyone's individual memories are and what was important to them. And then you could compile all those slides and share that link with everyone so that they would have it to take with them. And both of those ideas are free. They don't cost money. You're not having to run out. You're not having to use a glue gun and create anything. It's all just free. And then I think my favorite one is that for as a wrap up activity is to have students submit a school appropriate version of a favorite song and create it into a playlist. And if you did it early enough, you could play it throughout the final weeks of school. And I guarantee they will listen to it in the summer and think back to their school year and think, oh, this was Amy's song. This is the one she picked, or Julia picked this song. And I think that they would love that and have such memories about their class.
That's so funny because I was riding home yesterday with my kids and I made a playlist for them. Every time I like they say that they really like a song, I'll add it to a playlist. Well, I kind of forgot that I had done that. Like I had been doing that, but I hadn't like purposely played the playlist. And so I was playing it yesterday because we were in the car for a little while. And my son's like, dude, he's 7. He's like, it's banger after banger, mom. Like, you're getting it. And I was like, dude, I made this playlist for you. These are every time you tell me you love a song, as long as it doesn't have a curse word in it, because sometimes that's like if we're listening to something and that's always my kids' favorite songs. They don't hear them from me, but when they hear them and I'm like, we are 5 and 7. We're not listening to this. But he's like, it's banger after banger. And I was like, yeah, boy, I made this playlist for you. And he's like, play it all the time. And I was like, I forgot I made it. And so they were just pumped up. So I think the playlist would be something that would be really cool. My big thing after that of, thinking about movement. One of the things that I'm huge about, I do love gallery walks. And one of the reasons why I do love gallery walks is because I have probably said this on here before, but students' creative work should not go to die on your desk. It should not be submitted to the teacher and never be seen by anybody. Give time for students to get and to receive feedback, to be able to work on that feedback. Gallery walks is just one other way. I mean, I have this like huge atrium. You keep seeing me moving because I'm trying to make sure that students aren't always seen, but we have this like big atrium where, we can easily do a gallery walk. We have a couple spots. There's places around our room. There's just, you can find somewhere in a hallway or some even in the classroom, if you just set up those routines and those procedures on how to do it, but for kids to be able to get up, for them to be able to watch something on a Chromebook or an iPad, or to look at something that's been printed out, to scan a QR code. If I'm doing stations, hang them up, have a QR code for kids to have to do that first. Like have something where they're moving instead of sitting the whole time. So can I chunk up some sort of thing that was going to be a worksheet, but they have to get up to do their next piece? So look at something that might traditionally be a worksheet. You don't have to change that much, but just change the way that it's done. So movement is huge. And then I just was in a classroom where someone, I don't know if you've ever heard of like up, down. And basically what it is, and hopefully you can hear me as I go, but like the teacher's like, okay, it's simple rules. I'm going to say up, you go, and you go up. If I say down, you go down. And so they go, let's practice it, up, down. And then the teacher goes down, and then everybody will like go up, and then they get out. So basically like they were like, oh, it's a simple thing. You just got to follow directions. And they're like, everybody's out right now. Everybody, I said down. And they're like, you went up. And I'm like, it's just about what I say. And so then visually it was something that was fun, entertaining. The kids were laughing, and it just took 5 minutes, and it was a brain break in between activities and things that they were doing. And it gets your blood flowing and gets them moving. So and I even told my kids too, when I was in the classroom, I literally, like I said earlier, I had it timed out, and I'd be like, dude, I would try to come up with cool brain breaks, like, heads and tails, where you get the coin online and you flip it, and then kids lock in their vote, whether it's going to land on heads or it's going to land on tails. And so they lock in their vote. They keep each other honest about it. Cause I'm like, no cheaters in here. And we're like, boo, if somebody cheats. So, you just have fun. But then that's my expectation. And I set those expectations when we do something that's movement for, 3 minutes, because it is a part of the educational process. Even though heads and tails might not sound like it, we have blood flowing to the brain, and then they're primed and they're ready and they're positive. They just laughed. And now I'm going to move into the next portion of my class, whether that's taking notes or whether that's working on something independently or that's working on something collaboratively. I've now set the tone that their brains are primed. They're happy. They're in a better mood because we all giggled together. And it just took 3 minutes of my classroom time. I'd lose 3 minutes by having them. I'd lose more than that if I just had them sit and never move and not get that brain flowing. So move your babies, move your kids, and make sure that you're intentional with it too. Whether that's like I would tell them, I'm like, okay, when I flash the lights, here is my expectation. I'm like, do you want to continue doing brain breaks? Do you want to continue touching your booty and your head and your tail? You want to keep touching your tail like that? Okay, then that would be expectation if I ever had any classes that got kind of crazy. So, and they never wanted to lose those brain breaks because they were engaging, they were fun, they were funny, and they had to kind of earn those. So those, I also used them as rewards.
Well, I'm loving this because I'm thinking about this process of I do, you do, we do. And when I look at our school year from like August-ish to May-ish, it's like, there's a little bit of I do as the teacher because welcome to, this new grade level, welcome to my space. It's going to be our space. And there's some you do, like, all right, now, like, let's do some work. And then there's a we do. So really think about the post-spring break time as a we do. And the common thread that you're hearing from all three of us is let those students shine. I mean, now's the time to shine. The sun is coming out, hopefully, right? Spring is here in just a few days. So let's let the sun shine and let's let our students shine. And one of the ways that they can shine big is with their voice. And so my final tip is let that voice come out. The first thing they're going to want to do upon, coming back, whether it was a staycation or a vacation, is just talk, 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 talk. And they're going to want to tell everybody, something. So leverage maybe some ed tech tools, maybe, like Flip, Seesaw, allow students to have like a turn and talk time, maybe a non-ed tech community circle time where they can get together and share something. In my classroom, I've even done like a Scratch project or a coding and programming project where they've had to design a scene or a story and animate it based upon something fun that happened while they were away. But I mean, please know in your heart, no matter if it's a kindergartner or a senior, being gone, being away for a break, they miss their friends, they miss school, but they miss you. And so, talk, give them a voice and just let them really shine. This is such an amazing time. It can also be a really good SEL time, because we do have some kiddos where if we're not checking in with them, they might be feeling that anticipation of the next grade level and that anxiety or maybe that stress. In our building, when you leave fifth grade, you leave elementary. And so that can be sort of, heavy on students. And if you're not giving them that voice, then you may not know that that's what's on their minds. I can't believe we're already talking about the end of the year, you guys. I'm like having a moment here. Oh my word. So, as we come to, I know the end, I know you were talking, Julia, just really quick, you've got another tip that I want to make sure we get to hear.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So my last one, it kind of reminds me of your shining too, was just, I think rewards are better than punishments. And you have to be honest with kids. I remember one of my last times in the classroom, there was like a desk fell over and like pencils went everywhere. And I looked and it was my key player who had just plays and plays and plays. And I just was like, of course it's you. Just go sit outside. Of course it's you. And the next day, I death looked him. I did. And the next day I came in and the first thing, like I went and found him in his first hour and I was like, listen, I shouldn't have said, of course it's you. Like, I apologize. And I think I was so disappointed because I think you're so wonderful. And I want you to be successful in my classroom. However, like sometimes you get in your own way. Let's talk about it. Like, I'd like to talk about it. And so I did apologize for him that I felt like I handled that. Like I went home and I was like, you are an adult, you know better. Like that was inappropriate. Like, yes. Yeah. That was probably the 10,000th thing he's done. I think he like broke 3 of my pencil sharpeners. He might've started a small fire in the back of my classroom, but I promise you, I am the adult. I am the professional. And I had no business looking at another person like that, if that makes sense. I couldn't imagine if somebody looked at me with disgust or like, with such disappointment. And so I wanted to make eye contact with him the next day. And so I do want to remind you that like we are humans, rewards go better with punishment. And so with him, what I started to do after that moment is I started making a chart, and it wasn't like before I had like 3 detentions with his name, like on other people's too, of like just on the board, like just ready to go. This is ready. You want to keep going? Okay, I didn't think so. Like this detention is ready for you. And there are some expectations that we do have to keep like that. That there is like once you've gone too far, I mean, you get a detention. Like that there is a consequence to behavior and to reactions. But I got him on a reward program instead of a discipline program, and I just had a whole new kid. And it took a while. Don't get me wrong. There were some detentions still where I'm like, we're doing so good. You were like so close to sitting with a buddy. Like you were so close. Like he loved Twixes. And so, on Fridays I could bring him Twixes. And like if he was had to do a certain amount of things. And so rewards for that, like find out what your kids just really love. Glitter hand sanitizer is something that during COVID, I ended up happening upon, and I just happened to not use it until like I didn't get it towards the end of the year. And that's what I like had my kids using, like they were like fighting to get some glitter hand sanitizer. And it's so funny because it like didn't actually make a mess, but I don't know why they loved it so much, because they're middle school. They're going to love the weirdest things. They're going to love stickers. They're going to love Sharpie pens. They're going to love, and once again, once it's us spending money on our classroom. But then I would ask, like I asked a few people, sometimes I had friends, I'm like, hey, I've got to buy this. I had this really tough kid that he wanted a microphone that I had, and I mean it was like $20 on Amazon. But I just asked a friend. I was like, I got a tough friend, and he really wants a microphone because I'd already spent like $1,000 of my own. So I started getting other people to spend money in my classroom shamelessly. I mean, people in my community, I'd be like, hey, do you want to help out Plainfield Schools? I have something for you to help out with. And then teachers too, if I requested from parents, especially in middle school, they loved to send in gift cards. Like, hey, I'd like to do some rewards for the kids. I could either send out what I need for my store, or I could just ask for Amazon gift cards, and I'd get it back pretty quickly. I am at more of an affluent, my demographic is probably more towards affluent than some other demographics, and depending on what your parent population is, if you'd be able to do that. But that might where you source some businesses and things like that. So find different ways to get your students, whether that's rewards to do brain breaks, that's some of the ways. And then other times it was other ones that I got my kids, instead of on a discipline plan, I got them on a reward plan, because I can tell you by March, that mom, she was done talking to me. You know, she's that phone rings and it's school, and she doesn't even know to begin to know what to do. She's cried to me before, and now at this point I just feel bad when I'm like, hey, one more thing. And so making that relationship, I felt like I had a good relationship with that student, but just strengthening it by not being afraid that I had made a mistake with the way that I had handled his situation, and then saying, I want to work with you. Like, what do we got to do? Because I don't want to turn around and see that that was you. Like, I was disappointed because I want you to do so well. You're such a fantastic person. I do love seeing your face every day. Like, let's figure something out. And so coming up with those different types of rewards instead of punishments this time of the year, because at some point they're like, okay, I've been in detention 1,000 times. Like, you're not going to hurt me. So, and I don't know if middle or if elementary, if your babies are like that as much, but especially for my middles, they can get pretty apathetic towards the end of the year. So I just would really have to brainstorm.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. You guys, I think, did we get all of our tips?
I think so.
Yay. Oh my goodness. This has been so wonderful. It's been another month of a Survivor series filled with just so much light and great conversation. And so, if you've not checked out our previous ones, we've got ones that were new year, new perspective, surviving that, observation, that formal observation, spooky parents. And then, of course, the teacher burnout, and now today's of the spring break scaries. So as we have some fun ones coming up, we've been talking about navigating some summer PD, and just allowing any teacher of beginning, veteran, doesn't matter. We want to help you. If somebody's saying like, hey, you'll be so cool, like you should go learn some more. And you're like, really, that's very overwhelming to me. We can help you unpack that and just, be a rock star. Look out for all of these upcoming sessions, and, be sure to like and subscribe as you review some of our previous sessions. And ladies, is there anything else?
I wanted to go back over those 10 real quick of like routines. So
Yeah.
the top 10 ways just to survive spring break, just to sum it all up: routines, be present, mindset, collaboration, having your students work together, engagement is power, harness the power of voice, of having students voice in your classroom, start thinking about memory projects that they can remember your class, move your butt, move your heads and tails, choice in application. So having different choice for students of just trying the different things, and then rewards that work better than punishments. And honestly, I think that there's a lot of options that we can come up with for our next one in April that can be powerful, because I think and I almost like them in July. I'm almost in a thing where in June, I think I need to almost take like 3. My brain needs a brain break. I need to just be doing up, downs all summer for at least like the first 3 weeks in June. But then finding those, and especially before school starts, I just makes me feel better. I don't know. Like I get pumped up being around other educators. I'm like, yeah, we can do this. And then coming up with different ideas, I think it's really powerful. So I look forward to our April Survivor as well too.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, we're so thankful that everybody was able to join us for this conversation, and we're here for you. We can't wait to survive another amazing month of this great school year together. Thanks for watching.
Bye.